All right, good evening and welcome to our course. If you can hear me, if you could in the chat box, just I don't know, give me a yes if you could, please. Great. Just because there's a bunch of us, I think I've effectively turned off everyone's ability to speak. So if you, there'll be a couple of times where I will turn on the uh, for everybody's ability to talk, to answer questions, to ask questions, or feel free to put them in the chat box. At least on my end, the chat box is pretty small, so I may open up a couple times for y'all to ask questions. So, um, as you should be able to see on the screen now, I've had a few people email me saying, "Hey, listen, I was able to get into Moodle. I've seen the syllabus. I was able to order the book and all that. Now I go back in there, and for whatever reason, um, I can't see it." So Dr. Candace Haskell, I had sent her a couple emails today, and this was kind of the example that she sent back to me. So I don't know if most of you probably were able to get into Moodle to find the link to get this in the first place. I also sent it out, so if you are having trouble, I know at least 3 of you had said, "Hey, I can't find it in Moodle." This were the directions that I was given, so I'll put this back up at the end. So, all right, so obviously the real reason we're here. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time going over our Moodle site, going over the syllabus and all that. Uh, this site's been up for, I'd say, more than a week now. Hopefully you've had, um, let's see, if I go to my dashboard and click on classes, this is how I was able to find it. Yes. Um, okay. So Matt's saying that if you go to the dashboard and click on the past classes, this is how he's able to find it. So sounds like Matt was one of those that was having trouble finding the course as well. So I know quite a few were having that trouble. So all right, so let's go ahead and quickly go over the syllabus. I would say the format. A lot of you, I think, took EDA 606 with me this past summer. The format is quite similar. Um, so obviously, my name, Dr. Dustin Broombaugh. My day job is I'm Director of Human Resources for Madison County Schools in Richmond, Kentucky. I keep that Georgetown email address, that email on my phone. I check it a couple times a day, but the best way to get a hold of me would be through email. Um, all right, so the highlights then. Um, Live text. We'll use live text. It'll be very minimal. I believe the only thing that we'll add in live text at the end of the course will be the observation hours. Once again, very similar to 606. The 606 course, you'll upload the observation hours into live text at the end of the course. But to my knowledge, as of right now, that'll be the only time that we'll access live text in this course. All right, so you are required 10 field experience hours, as I talked about. You remember, I would prefer those hours be, there's going to be a couple interviews that are required for this course. You can use those times doing the interviews as field hours, but the remaining hours should be hours that you do things where you're working with leadership. Um, are you getting opportunities to, as I said, interviews? Are you getting opportunities to experience some things that leaders in the building get to, whether you attend meetings with them or you get to shadow them or whatever? I'm not saying you necessarily need to take a day off and do a whole day. Maybe a couple planning periods where you get to help problem solve, get to bump elbows with some school administrators. Maybe they'll let you attend a district level or a principal meeting or some PLCs that aren't the grade level that you would have already or content area or whatever that you wouldn't have already participated in. But you need 10 hours on those. Not much different than any other class with the university here. Okay, so the course outline, for the most part, as such here on page 5 of the syllabus, for the most part, there's going to be 6 discussion boards, 2 papers, 3 interviews, and then the culminating project at the end. So I feel like I've broke this into pieces that are manageable pieces each week as you do different things. I'm going to go through each one of those I wouldn't say that detailed, but I'm gonna go into each one of those when we actually take a look at the Moodle site here in a little bit. But okay, so how are you going to be evaluated though? So there are 2 reflective papers worth 25 points each for 50 total. 3 interviews worth 25 points, so that's 75 points total. You have 6 those online discussion boards, not much different than we had in EDA 606. Those are worth 15 points this time. And then your culminating project, your anchor assessment 6, it's worth 50 points, but prior to that, I'm going to have you submit your first draft of the literature review, which is 5 pages. It's worth 35 points. So once again, 2 papers, 3 interviews, 6 discussion boards, your anchor assessment number 6. But prior to submitting your final anchor assessment number 6, I will be looking at. I use first draft there. I wouldn't say it's your final draft, but it needs to be a good draft. I am going to grade it pretty thoroughly. So that's for the most part the syllabus. Obviously, the rubric that will be used to evaluate you on your culminating project, and then the grading scale, which hasn't changed for, I'd say, at least the last year or so at Georgetown. The other thing I really didn't hit on much, find it first, is yes, there's only one book required in this course, All Hands on Deck. It's a small paperback book. It's not very expensive. I think you should be able to get it for $10 or $15 at most. A pretty easy read. Most of there's 6 chapters in it. Most chapters aren't more than 8 or 10 pages, but it's an easy read. I felt like it was very relevant to this course. Similar to 606 again, I've gotten some decent feedback on this one, how it's an easy one, but yet very relevant. Written by by somebody who's been there, done that, not somebody who's just never been there, done that, and just writing a book about it. This is actually somebody who's actually participated and been a leader. So, all right. So going through the Moodle course. Let's see here. A few of you are saying things. So I saw Matt said something. Don't know why it's in the past classes, but it was there. I can only like the class in the past class. Yeah, so William Pierce, you're saying the same thing that Matt is saying on accessing it. It's not on your drop down either. All right. Somebody saying they don't have sound. Can get one or two of you to at least acknowledge with a yes or no that you can definitely hear me? Yeah, okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I know a few of you had mentioned that. Okay, so I'm going to go through Moodle real quick then. Obviously the syllabus is here. Similar to the last class we had together, the class assignments. Put a document together for all that. Definitely by tonight, if you haven't already done the first day of class forum, please make sure that you've done that sometime today. Actually, let's take a look at that real quick. That forum right here, if you would, definitely make sure to make a post of that. Georgetown's always asked that we do something to make students take action on the first class. It's almost like, indicating that you've signed up for the class, but now you're actually going to participate. They have to kind of put some protocol in place when you have an online class. It's not like we can all show up physically the first time and me take roll. So they want you to take some sort of action. So obviously I just ask a couple questions here. I can't emphasize enough that to check your Georgetown email. I would hope that you check at least once a day. I don't bombard you with emails, but if I do need to get a hold of you, I'd like to be able to do that. The same way I expect you to get a hold of me through email, I'll do with you. I have had times in the past where I have trouble getting a hold of somebody, so that's why I ask for the secondary email address. I don't know if I'll ever even need to use it. And I also want you to acknowledge that you need to, at minimum, be getting in the Moodle at least once a week. I'd like to say 2 or 3 times a week, but the administration at Georgetown, if you don't access it for a week, they start to get a little worried that, okay, Jane Doe or John Doe's not participating in class? Do we need to administratively drop them and things like that? So when you log into the course and do your normal, post in your paper, reflective paper, or post in your discussion board and stuff like that. Obviously, if you're doing that routinely, you don't need to worry about that. It's the people that sometimes they fall off the face of the earth for 10 days and they don't return emails and stuff, and to be honest, you get administratively dropped, and obviously we don't want that. So each of the weeks I've set up here, for week 2 and week 3 is a discussion board. Week 4 is a paper. Week 5 and 6 is a discussion board. Then another paper, 2 more discussion boards, and then we get into weeks 10, 11, and 12 where we'll have interviews, and then we get into writing your 5-page literature review and your anchor assessment. So like I said, broke it down to little pieces. So as I said, week 2 is basically working on our first discussion board. So basically, I'll work with everybody the first time we have a discussion board, but the goal is that you in this case read chapter 1. There's a couple short YouTube videos, and then based on those YouTube videos in chapter 1, you're going to write a response. I usually ask for 2 paragraphs, 250 words. I'm not going to count them or nothing, but a good quality full response. If you answer everything there fully, you're going to easily write a couple paragraphs. But I ask that you do that by Monday. So in this case, this wouldn't be due till a week from now, Monday. And then by that Thursday, responded to 3 of your peers. So as I was saying, I realized that some people, you've ordered the book or it's not in yet, or you're like, man, I forgot. I need to go ahead and order it. I'm going to work with you on that first discussion board. But after week 2, if you're a little late, I won't count anything off for it. But after that, I'm just asking you to keep up with the pace of the course. You should easily, I understand that this course is designed, and this program is designed for people who are working right now and going to school. So I'm working a full-time job in teaching at school, so to speak. So I try to keep this manageable, try to keep it relevant to things that obviously are pertinent to our course, but trying to keep it rigorous enough for somebody who's also working a full-time job. So week 1 and 2. So week 1's with chapter 1, a couple videos. I'm sorry, week 2 is post that to the discussion board. Week 3 is for chapter 2, and also a short video. Week 4 is your first paper here. So basically there's an article here. You're going to read it, and you're going to write a 2-page reflective paper on that. The paper should be double spaced, 12 font, just a 2-page paper based on that article. As long as you do some reflecting, what did you take out of it? Probably a short little summary about what you read about, but what did you learn from it? What reflecting did you do? What things that you meant something to you that you might be able to take with you? But 2-page paper, obviously I'm looking for it being thorough, good grammar, and you'll probably get a full 25 out of 25 on it. I'm not looking for reasons to take things off. If it's well written, good grammar, good punctuation, good reflection that definitely articulates that you read the article and reflected well on it, I'm sure you'll do great on it. So similar to 2, 3, and 4 being 2 discussion boards and a paper, 5, 6, and 7 are the same way. So 5 is a discussion board, 6 is another discussion board. Week 7 is another reflective paper. This one dealing with how reaching out to diverse populations. Kind of the same rule, so to speak, applies. 2 pages, good grammar, 12 font, double space, reflect, things like that. Week 8 and 9 is finishing up the last 2 chapters of our paperback book through the discussion boards. All right, and then week 10. Week 10 is when we start to get into interviews. So you don't necessarily need to wait until week 10 to interview your principal, or wait till week 11 to interview the school guidance counselor. or wait till week 12 to interview a family service worker. Social worker would be fine as well, but I'm trying to force you to pick the brains of three different perspectives. These don't have to be necessarily in your building, but I do need for you to your write up to the interview to be uploaded during that week. So if I were you, I'd probably try and schedule a time in early to mid October to start doing these three interviews. I see no reason. I mean, I definitely encourage you that while you're making these interviews, count that time as your observation hours. So document those, have that person sign off on it, so to speak. But sorry about that. I had something pop up. But do those interviews. I did provide some interview questions for you to do, but what I do ask is when you do your write-up for your interview, I don't necessarily want it to be, question one, here is the question, here is their answer. Take all the information that you gain from that and take all the information that you gain from that and do a write-up on that. So let's see here. Looking at the rubric that is being used on its thinking. Oh, well, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's the generic one I've used before. Okay, so I'll get back to everybody on specific, if there's a specific link to that. It won't be more than 2 pages, I'll tell you that. But once again, interview a school principal. Doesn't have to be your principal necessarily. The second one for week 11, second interview is with a guidance counselor. Once again, doesn't necessarily have to be your guidance counselor. And then I prefer a family resource center worker. Some people call them youth service center workers. If your school or district doesn't have any of those, maybe a social worker, but I want to be somebody that has that social work, family resource center background with schools. I don't want to necessarily be a social worker that's working, with adults or something like that. But to do that interview, Steven says, can it be an assistant principal? Yeah, I have no issue with it being any sort of principal would be fine. Head principal or assistant, any of those would be perfectly fine, Stephen. Let me scroll over here and make sure I didn't miss any questions. Judy's talking about how the book is on Amazon. Yeah, that's how I bought it. I think when I bought the book the first time, I'm an Amazon Prime member. I think I got it for less than $10. So, all right, so Matt got it on eBay. All right, everybody's indicating they can hear. All right, so moving on then to the remaining couple weeks. So after all of our interviews are completed and uploaded, then we get into the anchor assessment. I plan on we won't meet a bunch of times. I know we'll meet at least one more time as a go-to meeting. That's when I plan to probably more toward the middle of the course. Sometime in early to mid October, we'll have another go-to meeting, and it will be specific for one, answering any questions that you've had along the way that you needed some more feedback on or questions answered. But number two, the biggest focus of that meeting will be looking at the anchor assessment. But just realize that for the anchor assessment for week 13, I wouldn't suggest wait until week 13 to do that because the literature review will be part of your final anchor assessment, which is worth 50 points, and it's also part of when you turn in for week 13 or 35 points. So that literature review, even though it's just 5 pages, is worth a lot of points. When time gets a little closer over the next couple weeks, I will put under week 13 some more resources if you don't have a bunch of familiarity with, it'll expected to be an APA format, cited correctly and things like that. Once again, I'm not going to be a huge stickler on it. There could be a whole class based on just citing things with APA as far as I'm concerned. But, I do expect, I think the goal would be is you spend a lot of time reading various articles and picking out some pertinent information to write a 5-page literature review when time gets closer. So once again, in probably early October, we will meet, and the 90% of that meeting will be to focus on anchor assessment number 6, to make sure you fully understand what the expectations are, to make sure that you have all the resources that you need, and all that. So, and obviously, during the last week is once again the field experience hours. You'll upload those in live text. 5 bonus points just for doing the course evaluation, because I do want your feedback. I can't tell who's giving it, so obviously just be honest. But when you do that and upload the this little PDF document just saying that yes, I, John Doe, did complete the course evaluation, I give you 5 bonus points for it. So okay, so at this time, I'll take some questions. All right, first, Aaron says, will resources for the lit review posted by the beginning of October? I have fall break that first week and would like to knock it out. Then yes, I'd like to think over by next couple weeks. I plan to put some resources on there. Yes, those resources on there won't be an example of a previous lit review. This is only the second time that this class has been taught, but it'll be resources of where to find some best practices on APA, just some general stuff like that. It will be very generic. It will probably be not much different than if you did some Google searches and found some quality resources to look for those. So, but yes, Aaron, I will be putting those up. Other people have other questions. This was my intent, was to spend some time making sure everybody was clear as possible on the expectations of the course. If you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat box or to speak up and ask those now. Okay. Obviously nobody's speaking up, and I'm not seeing anything come up in the chat box. So a couple quick things and we'll call tonight then. So once again, if you've not already under week 1, even though it's week 1, it's needed to be done today. If you've not completed this form for the first day of class, today's the first day of class, Monday, August 21st, 2017, please make sure you do your post before you go to bed tonight, if you would please. Secondly, if you haven't purchased the book already, All Hands on Deck, please get that ASAP. I would ask, if you've not ordered it yet, that when we're done with our session, if you go ahead and order it, because remember, week 2 starts 1 week from now on Monday, August 28th. I do ask that you make your first post based on these questions and these YouTube videos 1 week from today. Remember, week 1, I'm going to work with you a little bit, but if I were you on a course like this, you don't want to start off behind. Go ahead and do those. Are you allowed to work ahead? Yeah, I don't want you working too far ahead. Maybe 1 week ahead of time. I don't have any issue with you working ahead a little bit. Now, when I say working ahead, like making posts way ahead of time. If I'm you and if I'm a student in this class, I'm definitely working ahead on the interviews. I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket and think I'm going to be able to iron down a specific date and time to interview my principal during week 10 and write the reflection and get it put up then. And then yet the principal that you plan on working with have something come up and have to cancel on you. So when I say working ahead, I mean actually making posts way ahead of time. I don't mind that a week ahead of time if you're wanting to get ahead of the game a little bit. But definitely plan ahead on the interviews. That's all I have, unless other people have other questions. I just wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to go through this. I am recording this right now, so it might be a couple hours, but sometime this evening, if not first thing in the morning, I will have this recording. I'm going to post this recording probably right under the yellow box here somewhere. That way, if you run into questions, you don't remember what I said before, you can come back and watch this recording then. But somewhere around in here under the yellow box will be the recording of all this as well. All right, you're free to go. And if you have any questions, I'm going to stay behind a little bit and answer any of those if you have. Have a good evening.
Dr. Brumbaugh?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a quick question. You might have already answered this, and I've had some static that kept me from being able to understand what was going on.
That's all right. No problem. What's up?
By what day of the week should our post be posted based on the comments each week?
We did cover that, but that's okay. Yeah, so so right here is where it refers to. I'm hoping that your post, based on the questions and the couple YouTube videos, be posted by that Monday evening of the week. So since we're in week 2, that would be Monday, August the 28th. You put your post up by then, and then at minimum respond to 3 of your peers by Thursday of that week. So I think that answered your question.
Yes, sir. I didn't see it, but again, thanks for that.
Hey, no problem. Happy to help, sir.
Also, you have I think 611. I think we're going to.
Are you in 611 as well?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to be doing this something very similar to this at 7 tonight.
Now, will I do it on the same website, or will I have to go through a different one?
It's a different
address.
I mean, it is. It's posted on if you can access our 611 site. It's on that Moodle page as well. Just like kind of how I have here under week 1 for this class. If you look under week 1 of the 611 class, I also have that posted.
Okay.
All right.
I just want to thanks.
No problem. Thanks, sir.
There are a few questions in the chat box.
Oh, okay. So Aaron, I answered your question. Can you briefly go over the requirements for the anchor assessment? Yeah, I'll go over those now, Heather. You all have access to those, obviously, but the biggest thing that I was going to be going over at a later date, and I'll do a short version of that now, under week 14 and 15, a description of anchor assessment number 6. I believe most or all of you took 606 with me. It's very similar in the format. So, I tried to break it up into pretty clear pieces, but, have a title page. After that, a separate title page, a short introduction, and then that lit review of 5 pages, completed literature review describing what the literature says about parent and community involvement in schools. So that's where I'm going to post not necessarily articles about parent and community involvement, although a couple of those articles for the 2 reflective papers would definitely be relevant. But so you would be expected to read a few of those, find some articles. I will make a specific number of sources that will be expected to have at that time, but do a 5-page lit review on that. And then just like for our other one, essential questions for this, don't overemphasize. I know that even for me, the essential questions is kind of like, man, this is such an odd expectation to have in this. But the expectations I was given from the course of Georgetown expected there to be essential questions. So list essential questions for developing and maintaining a tight-knit school community that utilizes all available resources. So if you were doing that, what are some of the questions that you would ask yourself? Make that as not a separate page or anything, but just a separate section. And then basically you are going to need to have formed a small group of people in your school and do the following. First, just basically give me a short description of your school, the demographics, students, what grade levels, obviously with students. Do the same thing with staff, approximate number of certified and classified staff, males and females. And then parent, definitely talk about parent involvement. That'll be a tough one. I think there's some information on some of that stuff if you're at a public school. Definitely you could access a lot of that demographic information on state testing results. All that stuff is listed for the public. Maybe an open house night. If you guys figure out how involved parents are, how many numbers of parents showed up and stuff like that. So I will acknowledge that the parent guide describing information that's available about the parents and parent involvement, I'll acknowledge that's limited, but whatever you can find, if you would include that under this 5th section here. Number 6, key findings of the community system and resources. So describe in detail community systems and resources that are utilized in your school. Be sure to describe the process used to identify the systems and resources. So going through this, we're going to be talking about some of the different systems and resources, but, what are some of those things that come off the top of your head? I think of some of the resources out there. The goal is that you probably already know some of them, but become more educated on those with your, if you have a family resource center or a youth service center. When you talk to your guidance counselor, are there some different resources that are out there that help people that are from low-income families or that have mental health? All those different things that are available to those. Just want you to, through your research and talking to different people at school, kind of put together, I won't say a list, but describe some of those resources that are available to your students, your parents, and your community. The 7th section then is talking about any social, historical, or political conditions. I'll read this to you. I'm not going to read to you here, but some of the bullets I describe in there during your write-up, be sure to describe some of those. I'm trying to think off where I used to be principal, if I were writing my paper, where I used to be the principal at Kirksville Elementary School, I know that I would talk about how it's a school that is, it's very rural, it's out in the country. It's a community that people identify with. It's a very small one, as in Kirksville. They had their own community center. They actually had they call it the old Kirksville School, and then in 1998 or 99, I think, it was when the new school was built. So I would talk about some of those historical type things. Political conditions, that's case by case. When I say political, I don't mean like, are there people in your building that that run for office or things like that, but okay, I'll go back to Kirksville again. One of the parents of the students at where I was a principal is a board member. Not saying that should mean that anything should be different for that parent, but let's not be naive to think that if you were the principal in that building that that wouldn't be on your radar. I think that's fair to say. Describe opportunities utilized in the past to include parents in the community. So drive some of the things that the community has the ability to be involved in your school. Open houses, music programs, athletic events, all kinds of those different things. The 8th section is describe any of the roadblocks or barriers that may be in place for people to participate from the school community. Once again, thinking from the hip here of childcare makes it very difficult for a lot of parents and community to participate in some of these nights for people to come in and participate in the school because they don't have childcare, maybe they don't have transportation. Do they? I don't know. Does your school feel not welcoming so that it's difficult for them to even want to come in there in the first place? Some of those things. And then lastly, last couple things would be next steps. Describe the steps you can take to improve or maintain the participation in your school community. And describe the next steps that we use to improve the relationships with the various members of your school community. So basically, what can you do to improve the involvement or improve the opportunities for the community and parents to become involved in your school? And if you're already knocking out a home run on that, well, what are some things that, might be some small improvements or some things to continue to maintain? And then obviously a short reflection, a conclusion in your reference page for many of the references that specifically going to be used in your lit review. So I don't know if that helps. I know that's super quick overview, but Heather asked for that, and I'm sure many of you didn't mind me taking 8 or 10 minutes to go over that then. But so something to be thinking about. Right now, I think if I'm you, I definitely start to form a list of some of those things that are out there, make some mental notes or actual physical notes when you interview the principal, when you interview your guidance counselor, or youth service center worker or social worker on what are some of those resources that are available. I think you'll be amazed at some of them that are out there that you might not even or not even aware of. Thanks, Matt. Judy. So no online class until October. Judy, yes and no. I don't plan on having one until early October unless I get a lot of people asking for something or something's not super clear and all that. So for the most part, yes, Judy. Leslie, did I understand you say you would like interview written as more of a narrative? Yes, Leslie. I provide questions. I believe I also ask that you, after those questions, form 2 more questions, at least 2 more, that I don't specifically make you ask, but then when you're done, take that as a narrative. Don't just list a question and the answer, question and answer. Kind of put together your time with them, what you took away from it, and things you learned, and write more of a narrative. Also remember, nothing I want you to hurry through, but you get to count that time with them as well as your observation time. Leroy says, just to clarify, each week should be posted by what day? Leroy, I think you.
Yeah, you already answered
covered that. Yes, sir. Michael, I was struggling to get in the class, and it said it was full. Yeah, Michael, we have a few more than 26, and obviously more people than 26 went. So once again, nobody's being docked or awarded points for being here. I'm going to put this recording up as soon as, hopefully before I go to bed tonight, right under the yellow box at the top of the page of the recording of all this. So I think most people would find there's nothing that if you didn't look over the Moodle site and look at the syllabus, I'd say 90% of the information you're going to want is going to be there. There wasn't like a golden nugget of knowledge I was holding back to tell everybody here. So, Judy, does anyone know when the new school report card will be released? I don't know if anybody's answered that. I think October. I thought it was sooner than that, actually. I thought it was more like first or second week of September, but I've been just enough years out of the instructional part of all that stuff that I don't quite have my finger on the pulse of that exact date and time anymore. So just talking
about Dr. Brumbaugh.
Yeah.
This is Heather. The reason that I ask about the anchor assessment, I'm also in 611, and I know we have to form a committee. So sometimes that's difficult. So I wanted to make sure that I knew the expectations for that. And as far as the community members that needed to be on there, so I could get that going the first of the semester.
Obviously, we'll talk about our 611 next class. The 611 one's a lot more involved.
Okay, so this one is a little bit more like your previous course that we had for you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now the 611 course, as some of you will take 611. It's a full-fledged committee. You meet a few times. You look at data together. You make some decisions on some areas to improve together as a group. This one, I think you said it perfectly, Heather. This one's very similar to our 606 course. Yes, 611. Blank slate. We're starting over the big old committee. So, yes, the 606 course is very similar to this. Matt, when you said 611, I got confused. I apologize, Matt. It looks like you posted that a couple 7 or 8 minutes ago. A few people in this course must be in the 611 course, which it's okay if you've not taken it yet. It's just another course that some people are asking questions that are taking 608 and 611 with me at the same time. So if the 611 stuff confuses you and you're not in that course, that's okay. We'll answer those when you take 611. Yeah, 605 I think and 611 are similar in that you do lots of observation hours. I think 45 in each of the classes. And some of those observations hours are, I'll call it mandatory fun. Here's the assignment you need to do, and you get hours for it. And then there's some more you expected to be getting on top of that. So I know with 605 and Dr. Haskell's doing that one, there's a lot of similarities and some differences. We both put our own touch on the way we want to do things, but there's a lot of similarities between Gwen, the class you're talking about, with 605. Christopher, when we're done here, I'll put up. Okay, never mind. I think you're referring to a GoToMeeting. I can't help you with that one. It's in an email. Never mind. There we go. Okay, so as again, I don't have anything else, but I will stay behind. If you'd like to ask a question in the chat box or stay below or stay behind and ask it, out loud, I'll stay behind a little bit. Otherwise, you're free to go. I'm an email away if you need anything. Thank you. William, that's not a dumb question at all or a bad question. The committee isn't necessarily. Do you need to change the committee? No. I'm gonna go through it in 611, but I'm just gonna want. I'm gonna encourage a wide variety of different people on that committee. I prefer to be a couple certified, couple classified at minimum. Obviously, if you can get a parent or two and some community members, the head principal in your school it's required. But as long as all of those, especially the certified, classified, and head principal are on there, and as I said, parent, community members, if you can, the committee part that's perfectly fine. Not a problem at all. Correct, Matt. It's in the progression a little bit later. Matt, have you taken 605 yet, or are you taking it now? Yeah. So I would say that I don't know how much later, but you definitely would not be taking 605 and 611 at the same time. There's similar courses in the fact that it's I'll call it clinical observations, meaning you do a lot a lot of your assignments are doing things and then reflecting on it. So you get in this class there's only 10 hours required. In these classes it's 45 of them. So it's a lot of taking the opportunities. In 611 I'm using a lot of the opportunities that present learning opportunities for people that go on the first couple months of a school year type stuff. So you'll do a lot of different observations or a lot of different here's a task that I need you to go do, and you'll reflect on it and you'll get some observation hours. So not much different than you're going to be doing in 605. I put my own little different touch on it, but a lot of clinical hours of doing a lot of things to really the goal is someday when not if or when you're a principal that you didn't read about it in a book or hear somebody tell you about it. Hopefully some of these things you actually went and did a lot of it. That's the goal is that wow, I feel like I have some firsthand knowledge because I got to help my principal do it, or I got to help the assistant principal do it, or something like that. So to answer your question, no, you'll take 611 a little bit later. William, each one of those are, we don't currently have a pair. Yeah, I mean, well, you're probably not far off. I ask for a parent. I encourage, I'm always going to encourage you to invite parents or community members, but I will realize and acknowledge that that's not always easy to achieve. So ball in your court on that one. As long as you have a couple certified, your head principal, I would hope at least one classified, and then the other ones are, extra added fun if you can get those. But yeah, you're going to review some data, specifically TEL data, if you're at a public school. But I think that committee, you should be on track to be able to use that. No problem, Matt. You're welcome, William. Anybody else have any other questions before I hop off here? All right, guys, I'm going to take a small break before I have my next class. If you have any questions, feel free to definitely shoot me an email. All right, thank you.